Hello and welcome to Map for a New Motherhood. I'm here today with Kerry Ingram, and Kerry is the founder of the Community Supported Postpartum. And the mission of this organization is to build ecosystems of care one community at a time. She contributes to this vision by teaching folks all over the world how to create local parent and baby groups and get parents out of isolation and into a web of support and care. Kerry is a parent herself, both biological and foster. She's an early childhood educator for 20 years, a postpartum doula, and she has additional education in women and gender studies, as well as maternal mental healthcare. She has been facilitating local parent and baby groups for nearly 10 years and teaches others around the world with her postpartum community care course and curriculum on how to create their own groups. Welcome, Kerry. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, and your work is really near and dear to my heart and my passion because it's focused on community and it's focused on postpartum. And I think that this is an area that is really severely lacking in our culture, just support in the postpartum in general, and that village, network feeling. So happy to dive into this with you today. And I'd love to start just by hearing a little bit about your initiation into motherhood and how that kind of led you to the work that you're doing now.
Thanks. Well, I became a mother at 37, and this was after, over 15 years of being an early childhood educator, working with families. I grew up babysitting and being a nanny, and I was a doula before giving birth, and then had my son. I had a wonderful pregnancy, and I had a very long but beautiful home birth. And but of course, with all the education and experience, you're still completely unprepared for the transformation and initiation into your own parenting journey. And what I discovered is I had some pelvic floor injuries during birth. And even though I had this experience, I didn't know how to care for myself. And I was definitely a big, I don't want to say victim, but I definitely bought into productivity culture my whole life. And that was something that was modeled to me by my own mother, the, martyr mom kind of archetype. Yeah. And I was really unable to care for myself and found myself like, a very healthy, athletic, active person, just shocked that I couldn't really function for a couple of months until I really started just receiving all of this community support from my friends. My family of origin was far away, although they did come out for a while. My partner, my friends, just really pouring into me and giving me a safe space to be honest of what was happening with my body and resourcing me. That one, that was totally normal, and that there's help for what I was experiencing, and just being held for a long time, held for 3 months of meals and care and love and trust. And I feel like everyone should have this. And, to compare that with my time as a doula and also a kindergarten teacher, I really saw that, there'd be that intimate care, that doula provided care right after birth for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then And then there
And then
wasn't
what?
really, then there was that awkward goodbye moment.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like we've really connected with, this is such an intimate thing. You're in my heart and you deserve more, and our contract has ended, or whatever that feeling is. It was always an icky feeling for me in my, vocation before becoming a parent. And I always wondered, like, there needs to be more. Like, what's happening next?
Yeah.
So that question, and then my own experience, really informed the work that I've been doing for the last nearly 10 years of building these peer support groups for new parents.
That's amazing. And so you were already a postpartum doula before you became a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? So, and then I'm curious, so as a postpartum doula, you knew how vulnerable new moms are and how much support they need. And yet when you became a new mother yourself, it sounded like there was some reckoning with like the capacity to really surrender and receive support. And I'm wondering what that shift was inside of you that allowed you to let that in.
Yeah, I think that one piece is just, I've always been that helper, I'm always there. I'm always willing to show up. I'm always willing to, even if it's that feeling of obligation, like, I'm going to say yes, which, that's been my life lesson. And thank goodness I had this very embodied experience of who's going to put you first, who's going to take care of you, which, yes, I had this bubble around me, but I had to surrender. As you said, I had to surrender. And I think the moment was, having my stitches rip apart because I wasn't resting. And it was such a blow to me. I'm like, no, oh my gosh. And to me, I felt like I was on such light duty. And I knew from helping other people the value of rest and how we really need to be still and take care of our bodies. But for whatever reason, I wasn't giving that to myself. And I think it was that moment. I remember like holding my son and my stitches ripping open, and
wow,
I know it's kind of
so
gory,
that must have been pretty, like, within the first couple of weeks, I would say.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was within 2 weeks. And then I just had to, okay, that's it.
So it's such a I think that's a common story for mothers, of like the point that makes them open to receive is just like such a low point where it's like you really don't have an option. Like that's when we commit to ourselves and commit to our own self-care, is when we've just reached such a rock bottom place.
Yeah, and it affected my breast milk production. It affected everything, my mental state, my emotions, my relationship, like everything was impacted, because I really had this expectation that I'd be, I bought into this like bounce back culture.
Right. Yeah.
So much of this informs what I do now.
Yeah. So that was like the seed, right? That was like sort of the planting of the seed in that moment in your own personal experience. And then how did that seed get watered and nurtured? And when did you found your organization, the Community Supported Postpartum?
It was founded when my son was 3 months old, because I had a lot of friends who were also having babies at the time and knew that I had, done parent-child groups in a local school before. And they said, let's do something in your living room, Kerry. So I started putting together, as a teacher, curriculum. I started putting together curriculum. But one of the aspects I really wanted to bring was this witnessing, because so many of us are like longing for this rite of passage, this ritual, this like community acknowledgement, where it goes from everybody is, wanting to touch your belly and, oh, you're pregnant, the excitement. And then when the baby is born, it's like you're invisible.
Yeah.
And, it's all focused on baby when really, as you know, we need to be pouring into the parents who
Right.
are pouring into the baby. So that it really happened around 3 months. I started gathering some local folks at my home, and then it just started coming in my teacher brain. Let's create kind of a framework here, a curriculum. And so much has emerged over the last almost 10 years of doing this. But a couple key components of that framework that I use is ritual. How do we create ritual through the day, not just for our own care, but also for connecting and being present with our babies? So I teach songs and touching games. I talk about consent, consent-based care, that everyone can do, no matter what kind of philosophy or ideals you're leading with in your own realm. There's some sharing time, of course. And then what I noticed was after the sharing time, I would notice common themes emerging. And that's when I started bringing in this, I call it the name the villain framework.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is kind of a fun, I've turned it into something with levity, because oftentimes it's just something we all feel shitty about. So what I noticed was these common themes of, feeling small and invisible, or these like outdated gendered housekeeping roles that come in, or this like body expectation, which definitely was something that I held, this like bounce back, or, get your body back.
Right.
The individualism, like you should be able to figure this out. You should know how to breastfeed with ease, and you should know what your baby needs. And then also like constantly searching outward for answers instead of, taking the time to attune, because of course. So all of these things that would emerge, that were emerging in conversation, I felt like, why are we all feeling bad about this? It's actually, we've been conditioned to believe these things. And what I started creating here, nerd alert, is a flow chart, like these common things that new parents feel bad about, and kind of leading it to these systems that have kind of conditioned us to feel bad about very normal, common feelings of early parenting.
Yeah.
And it's actually not our beliefs at all. And who do these beliefs benefit? So, for instance, like focusing on, body image and comparison, or food deprivation, or undernourishment, like that's diet culture, that's that villain, is diet culture. Like how can we be these sellable, cis, white, skinny bodies? And when we're not, we're bad, we're wrong.
Right.
Or, constantly buying things to get more sleep, or get more, the things that are very common, this consumerism, this capitalist culture that is really pervasive. And then of course, isolation, thinking that we have to do everything, and asking for help means you're not good enough and you're failing.
Right.
So
you're weak.
And weak, right? And like the patriarchy in the medical systems, where we're not talking about our pelvic floor, we're not talking about breastfeeding and chest feeding, we're not talking about these things where we actually don't even have the body fluency, or when we do name it, it's oh, you're just gonna pee when you sneeze now, or toning it down, or or overriding it. So all of these common things that were emerging, I started kind of following these threads to these villains.
I love that.
The longing for ritual, like colonialism and
Yeah.
white supremacy, like all of these systems. So that's like, I really like to name the villains to take that guilt and shame and blame off of new parents, because it's not us. We just need to recognize the waters in which we're all swimming.
Exactly. Yes.
And then we can start interrupting and actually like reclaiming and, being culture makers.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's right in alignment with my work and my passion in this area, like really just such a strong desire to create a new culture that and a lot of the new culture is really old ways that were here before colonization, that were here before so much of the patriarchy that influences us feeling inadequate and influences like the whole like rugged individualism kind of perspective where, yeah, if we need support, that means that we're weak and we just don't have our shit together. When in reality, the nuclear family is a very, very recent invention in human history, and it's not really serving us. And so, yeah, bringing back this community village support is so essential, I think, for any kind of thriving parenthood. And I'm wondering what are some of the biggest shifts that you've noticed in the mothers and the parents that come to your groups? What are they taking away?
Well, I think what makes like the most joy in my heart is they're taking away connections and community. They're taking away friendships that, I love to run into a group at a park. And, now their children are 7 years old and they're still together.
Right.
I think that to me is most meaningful because they've been in a space where they've shared time, they've invested in this relationship. And so I think that to me is most meaningful, but also something I get so much feedback on is like, wow, now I can see, these villains coming from a mile away, and I can stop them and say, hey, that's not my belief. And I see that, when I believe that, who that benefits, and I can set that down. And there's also just more, I feel like they know how to access resources more. And also like the normalization and fluency around what is the need, be it, physical or emotional, like what is the need, and then kind of building the bridge, like, well, where can I get that support?
Yeah. So them being able to identify their own physical and emotional needs more clearly.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And I think it's also very powerful, just this naming of the water that we're swimming in, our capacity to see that is what gives us power to make it different. And until we are able to really see that what it is and how it's been influencing us, there's very little power to affect that change. Right?
It's really true. It's like we're under a spell.
Yeah. And so what do you find that a lot of new moms and new parents are are they open to your work, or is there any kind of resistance to group or community care, or maybe what are the obstacles that you see them coming in with to this?
Well, I think one obstacle is that, in the US here, there's not a lot of time off, paid family time off, where families are resourced and have time to heal, time to bond, time to attune and integrate this experience. So I think that I would say is the number one obstacle is, by the time they're feeling like they're ready to leave the house and come to a weekly group, work is, I've got to get back to work.
Yeah.
So that's tricky. And I've tried Saturdays and Sundays, but I just noticed that people just want to stay home and rest or be with their family. And so I would say that's the biggest obstacle, is that that's this time, this very special, necessary time of attunement and slowing and recovery is not supported.
Yeah, right. And are you so you're not finding that they're that you feel that they get the value of the group? It's just more logistical in terms of the obstacles. It's not that they don't understand. Yeah.
So far, yeah. And how I'm very open of how I facilitate the group, and I try to make a very safe space. No one has to share if they don't want to. They can listen. I have a lot of agreements that are very upfront, so that people can, choose, like, this is for me, this is not for me.
Right. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
And how has the pandemic influenced your work? And how are you now doing stuff more virtually, or?
Well, when it first first emerged, we did shift onto Zoom, and that was different. It was especially different for me because I didn't like it. I had to really find my joy and enthusiasm to be here in front of a screen.
Yeah.
And there's all of the nuances of like being in a room and seeing how other people are feeding their babies, how other postpartum bodies look in real life, how the emotions and all of that. But we went online, and then we moved to a park, and I live in Northern California, so it's possible year round to get outside as long as it's not raining. So we moved to a park. Everyone brought their own picnic blanket on islands, but so that's how the groups have shifted.
Yeah.
But how is the heart of the community of parents? Gosh, it's hard as hell. It's really hard. They feel really isolated. Some of them that I have in my groups right now, this is their second baby in the pandemic.
Wow.
And they're lonesome. We have a real shortage of caregivers. So, people who need help, who are trying to also work, they're not able to find caregivers or play gardens or daycare. It just feels like here's more on an already full plate for these parents. And just, the value of community acknowledgement, like being out or having that family of origin come and be with you. It wasn't necessarily true, or even just people showing up, depending on people's comfort. Like, oh, I don't want somebody to cook for me right now. That doesn't feel safe. Like, everyone's got different levels of comfort. They might have elders living with them and have to be really careful. So it's been hard. There's definitely more of a feeling of collective isolation and weariness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I miss also, I have a monthly postpartum group and a pregnancy group, which both used to be live and in person. And I mean, I'm grateful that we have Zoom and that we are able to connect in some way, but it used to be that we would share food, and it was like a longer process. There was more just free social time aside from the actual facilitated circle part. And that, does a lot to build community that then goes outside of the group as well. You also train others to hold their own groups, right? And so do you have groups kind of like all over the country and all over the world, or? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And people make it their own, I just make it, I believe in this so much, and I love curriculum and details. So I have like a full-on course and curriculum. People actually like walk away with a printed binder because I already gave you my nerd alert. And I just want it to be easy, here it's the songs, here's the games, here are the recipes, here are, over 120 sample classes that you can just, conversation prompts, facilitation guidelines, why this is important, resources, because I just believe in this so much. And it's not a franchise. Nobody's looking over your shoulder, just like, here, do this, do it your own way. Just do it, please.
Yeah. That's great. What do you do for your own self-care to nourish yourself so that you can give back to the community?
What a great question. Well, I really claim my time. I've been living, as I mentioned earlier, a long life of feeling of time scarcity or giving my time to others. And I've really learned how to claim my time, take my time to make a nourishing breakfast. That's like one really big thing. Take my time to make a nourishing breakfast, get out and walk. I'm in a pottery class that I love. I love having kitchen dance parties with my son. I have a wonderful community. I invest time into meaningful relationships, and I love to be in my garden. So that's how, those are some of the ways, and getting a good night's sleep.
And like all of those ways that nourish you, I think the sort of foundational piece is that claiming of your time, right? The boundaries around our own time and the prioritizing of those things that nourish us.
Yeah. Time is our most valuable, non-renewable resource.
Non-renewable, yes, that's true. And what really fuels your creativity and passion for your work? Just say.
I just really believe, that like communities are made up of real people. And when we see communities as an ecosystem, and for an ecosystem to flourish, it just moves resources where they're needed. And in moving those resources, we're actually building community. So that means, I always tell my group, making requests actually builds community. So I love just thinking like, what do I have? What can I pour out? And what do I need poured in? And really thinking of community as an ecosystem. So I love just relationships. I love human connection. And I love to just see, where the needs are, where the excess is, and I like to move it. I like to be a mover.
So like shifting resources and shifting things around.
Yeah. And I just really believe in contributing whatever I can to a more fair, just, and equitable world.
Absolutely. And your groups, are they for a certain time frame postpartum, or are they indefinite?
So how I have this particular group that I offer the curriculum for, and my local work, is the first year. And it's not a hard fast, like, okay, 1 year, you're out of here.
Right. But
I just say the first year, like whenever you're ready to come, whenever, around 1, you're ready to travel on, because I noticed that, when the babies start walking, because these groups are really for the parents. The babies are there. Yes, we sing. Yes, we do games. Yes, there's some infant development chat, consent-based chair chat, but it's really for pouring into the parents. And once the parents' attention starts going where their little one is going, then there's a shift. So that shift, I kind of build the bridge for more like monthly walkabouts in a park with your toddlers. So there's something next, but these groups are really like for the first year.
Okay, great. And your groups are weekly?
I host them weekly, and they're 10-week sessions. And
I see.
depending on when somebody joins, they join 1, 2, sometimes 3 in a row. And
so they can keep joining those 10-week sessions for that
Yes.
first year. And is the 10-week session, you're kind of moving through a curriculum as well with the
Yes.
parents? Okay.
Yeah. I have some guest speakers come in. I have some like common themes that I make space for. And then we have open space too, where we are, just being together. Sometimes we'll do a craft. Get our hands into something as we're sharing. Yeah. But there's usually like a journey. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. One of my dear friends and midwifery colleagues, she had a play group. She has 2 adult sons now, and she used to get together, I think it was every week, with a group of other parents, mostly mothers, and she was like, those play groups, they weren't for the kids, they were for us. It was for our own sanity.
True.
Yeah.
It's really true.
So important. So, well, we do have to close, but I thank you so much for your time today and for the work that you're doing in the world. I think it's essential, especially right now during this time of increased isolation. And I know that you have a gift for our participants, so I'd love to have you share what that is.
Yeah, it's if you want to sign up for my email list, and it's very inconsistent but juicy whenever I get it out there. I hope I have a gift for you. It's a comic, How to Spot the Villains of Early Parenting, how to interrupt them and actually respond in a way that is reclaiming early parenting for you and your needs. So you can download this fun comic, and it's pretty simple and, add some humor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Where can people find you? I'm going to put the links to how to get that gift and all your, your websites and stuff, but just if you want to share your social media handles.
Sure. Yeah. My website is Community Supported Postpartum. I have the longest name. So, if you can commit to typing that in, you can browse
it's
around.
Easy to remember, at least. So.
There's some courses on there for parents, for care providers. Again, I do the Postpartum Community Care course twice a year. The next one is February 28th, and then October, it'll happen again. My social media, I have Instagram and Facebook. Both of them are Community Supported Postpartum.
That's great. It's nice when you can have it the same across all platforms.
Yeah.
Right? Well, thank you.
People probably get tired taking that name, typing it in.
Oh, well, I love it. Thank you so much. Is there any final words that you'd like to share with our audience? Making requests builds community. Love that. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.